Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to be doing Perek Aleph, continuing with Mishnah Dalet and Mishnah Hey B'ezrat Hashem. Mishnah Dalet is very important in terms of understanding what Sukkah is, how it's made, and what the rules are. All the other Mishnah sort of fit into most of the other Mishnah fit into these rules of what makes something Sukkah kasher. So let's begin. Hidla aleha et hagefen. Let's say a person takes a vine, some sort of a tree or vine. We'll see different examples coming up. And you take that vine and you put it on top of your schach. So that's how you're making your sukkah. You take a vine that's anywhere out in the field, you build it walls, and then on top of the walls you take this vine and you put it on top. So in such a case, hidlat hagefen, ve'atatlat, or a gourd, a different type of a tree, etakisom, some sort of an ivy, all different kinds of vines that you're taking, branches that you're taking and putting on top of your sukkah. V'sikech al gaba, and then you take schach and you put that on top of it. Regular schach, what we call schach, branches that are detached from the ground, and you take those and you put those on top of the vines or the branches that are attached to the ground. So the Mishnah says that is pasul. You're not allowed to do that. That's not a sukkah, considered sukkah kshera. But if you put some branches on, but you also put kosher schach has been detached from the ground, and you put that on top as well, so you have both, and not only do you have both, there's more of the kosher schach than the non-kosher schach, there's more of the detached schach than the attached schach, oshek tzatzan, or you detach the branches or the vines from the ground, so you cut them first, and then you put them onto the sukkah, then kshira, then the sukkah is kasher. And in that case, the sukkah is fine. Now the Mishnah is going to tell us what the rule is. What makes something schach kasher? What makes it schach pasul? So here's the rule. Zeha klal. This is the rule. Kol shehu mekabel tum'ah ve'ein gidulo min haaretz ein mesachin bo. So anything, one of two things. Either it's mekabel tum'ah. Tum'ah, of course, is ritual impurity. Only certain things can become tme'im. Those things have to have a status for our purposes. There are other things that become tamei. When it comes to schach, what's important is that which will become tamei is something which is considered a kli, which is considered a vessel, something that has a use for people, that people have formed it into something useful. So let's say you take a piece of wood and you make it into a table. So you've taken that wood and now you've made it into a vessel that's useful. That is mekabel tumah. That can become tamei. The piece of wood itself, those branches can't become tameim. They don't have any use. That cannot become tamei. But when you take it, make it into a table, now it can become tamei. Now it has a use. You made it into a kli, and a kli can become tamei. So the rule is schach. The first rule is kol shu mekabel tumah. Anything which is mekabel tumah, which has been made into a kli, a useful vessel, that we're going to see in mesachachin bo. You're not allowed to use that for schach. The second rule is ve'in gidulo min haaretz. Anything that doesn't grow from the ground, also in mesachin bo, you can't use. So it has to be something that grows from the ground. Wood, grass, etc. And in addition to growing from the ground, it has to be in a state where it's not mekabel tumah. So something like that. So branches from a tree, leaves, all those things, they obviously grow from the ground, and they're not mekabel tumah. That's what we use for schach. Something which does not grow from the ground. So even if you have a worthless piece of of animal skin, or of metal, which is not mekabel tumah because it has no purpose, it might not be in a form of any sort of vessel, it's not mekabel tumah, but since it doesn't go from the ground, it's no good, and even something that grows from the ground has to still be in its simple form, where it has not reached the status of being a kli, and therefore still not mekabel tumah. So that's really the big rule in terms of what criteria we need for something to be schach. And then the Mishnah just continues, V'chol davar she'ena mekabel tumah, v'gidulo min haaretz mesachim bo. Just the opposite, just stating it the reverse side of the rule, that anything which is eno mekabel tumah, which is not mekabel tumah, v'gidulo min haaretz, and grows from the ground. So that mesachim bo, that is what we do use for schach, bamboo, sticks, things like that, which all grow from the ground, are not mekabel tumah because they haven't made it into a kli. So those are things that we do use for schach. Let's just do Mishnah Hey. It's rather short. Chavile kash v'chavile eitzim v'chavile zradin. Chavel, a chavila is a bundle. So you have a bundle of either straw kash or wood of etzim, or you have reed, chavilei zradim. So all those things in misachim, and you cannot use those. You have a bundle of all those things, you can't use them. So even though something like wood, pieces of wood or straw, or these reeds, they're not mekabel tumah because you have not yet made them into any sort of a kli. But when they're a bundle of them, you're not allowed to use them for schach. The Mefarshim explained that technically speaking, you should be able to use them for schach. Because they're not mekabel tumah, they fit into the rule. The only thing is, people would normally bring those in from the field. When they bring them in from the field, they'd be fresh, and they'd have to be left out in the sun to be dried out. And we're afraid someone's going to take that, put it on top of their sukkah just to have it dry out, and then later on decide, something, that's going to be my schach for my sukkah. And that's a problem of what's called ta'aseh v'lo min ha'asoy. When a person makes the sukkah, originally one has to have in mind that he's making it for the sukkah, as we learned in Mishnah Aleph. Either specifically have to do it for the sukkah, or at least you can't be doing it for, everyone agrees, you can't be doing it for an ulterior reason, where here you're doing it for the reason of just simply drying it out. You can't have that become your schach afterwards, and if you do, you just change your mind. That's called the mitzvah is ta'aseh. When you put it on the sukkah, if you're putting it there as the roof, as the covering for the sukkah, v'lo min ha'asui, and it can't be that it's already there, and then you decide, now it's going to be my sukkah. That's not an acceptable way of making the sukkah, and therefore we're afraid you're going to put it there to dry it, and then just decide in your mind, okay, I want this to be my schach, and that doesn't work. So therefore, the Chachamim came along, made a blanket rule. If you have these bundles, that's not what's normally used for schach. So therefore, you can't use that for schach at all, because we're afraid, again, you're going to do it in the wrong way. V'chulan, shetiran kshero, but all these things, once you untie the bundle, you release everything from the bundle, so then it's kasher, because all those things are perfectly fine for schach. V'chulan kshero l'dfanot, and all of these things are kasher for dfanot, for the walls of the sukkah, so then none of these rules apply. The walls of the sukkah can be made virtually. We'll discuss later on, Bezrat Hashem, exactly what the rules are, but the rules are much more lenient. The walls of sukkah are there to be something, to make walls. But all these rules about schach do not apply to the walls themselves. Thank you.